I discovered the greatest strength of this camera when I was simply playing with my son. Hi, it's me, Andre. This will either be the best or the worst review. Insta360 X5, a 360 camera, because it's going to be completely different. Those funny influencers, creators get these cameras, an assignment to make content about them, and a file with materials of what should be said, which I just didn't read because I'm more interested in the functionality of such a camera. So if you're looking for technical details, you'll definitely find plenty of material about this camera online, but I'm just going to share my own opinion with you. As you saw in the thumbnail or the title, this really isn't a camera for me, but that doesn't mean it's not the right camera for you. Because in my opinion, it's a great tool for amateurs, or actually, maybe not just amateurs, but for people who have the time and desire to take out as much as possible, or to have the most fun using a sports camera, especially when it comes to touring rides. When it comes to sports riding, it's also good for capturing a few interesting shots, but let's go step by step. Why isn't this camera for me? Well, because it requires more time than a regular sports camera, the kind with a single lens that you mount on the tank, on your chin, on your chest. There are a million different ways. Because this camera records in 360, which means that after you record your footage, the next thing you have to do is process that footage further. So you don't just have one, well, you do have a single file, but it's not like you have just one frame and you look for the action in it. Instead, you have almost an infinite number of possibilities. So after recording a 10-minute video, you have to watch it first, although actually you do not necessarily have to, because there are automatic solutions, but you still need to watch it and decide which frame you want to show, which one to use. And at first my reaction was like, okay, fine. I don't have time for that because I have a lot more things to do. If I were just, I don't know, an online creator, a YouTuber, then this device would probably be very, very useful for me. But well, it's not for me. In my case, and actually in general, when it comes to motorcycle videos around the world, we put the emphasis on the substantive aspect, not necessarily the visual one. So my first impression was, why do I even need this? But I decided to give this camera a chance. What I like first and foremost is that it's a solid device. So when it comes to the menu operation and so on, everything is very well done. In general, I hate sports cameras, but here I have to admit that this one, it never let me down, meaning it always recorded, always captured the sound. There was never a situation where, for example, it recorded sound but not video, because with all the other cameras, whether it was DJI or GoPro, I always had those kinds of screw-ups, like the camera would overheat or something would happen and it would suddenly stop working. So this one never let me down, not even once. Secondly, it has a really big battery, and honestly, that's also a huge, huge plus. That's an important thing for me, but of course that comes with a price. The size of the camera itself, I ride pretty aggressively, so for me, for example, having this camera on the fuel tank is a bit much. It's a bit too big because you can hit it and so on, so I start looking for smaller cameras in that case. So actually, I never really mounted it in a typical way, like on the chin, on the chest, and so on. Actually, I did try it on my chest once and it felt pretty heavy, but I just used it anyway. That one mount that was included in the set, which was basically just a handle. And it's super, super solid. It holds really well. There's a little rubber band here. You squeeze it and mount it in different places on the motorcycle. Most of the time, I just mounted it on the handlebars or on some rear rack and so on. Or I mounted it, in some funny places, like by the passenger foot peg. And this mount look is such that you can rotate it in any direction, mount it or loosen it a bit and turn it even more. And it's just brilliant. You'll always find a way to mount this camera in a sensible way. And it really did the job. Besides, it's quite comfortable to hold this camera, so it's actually great for interviews. Daniel, because there's nothing worse than when someone stands there and does this to you, right? Daniel, now tell us what you're doing. Daniel, now tell us where you are. And what if someone just stood like this casually? just relaxed from the other side, and then I'll move it later. Daniel is not only fast, but also smart. Well, maybe not directly in front of the camera, but it's really just perfect for filming situations. Some random ones, you know. Oh! Oh, wow, amazing, incredible. Smarties, delicious and colorful Smarties. That doesn't change the fact that it still annoyed me quite a bit. That I had to make edits to it later, but I noticed that the phone app has such an option. AI Auto Edit. First of all, this app either automatically sets the frame for you, which in my opinion, from my perspective, wasn't perfect every time because it didn't always show exactly what I would have wanted, but it was actually good enough. So I would click on automatic framing, and during a 10-minute recording, the camera would operate on its own, showing what it wanted, what I wanted, well, actually what it wanted. And overall, it was actually pretty okay for things like cutaway shots. I just kind of let it go, that it's not perfect. It's not exactly what I would have shown, but it's good enough, and I could generate a video like that and use it as a cutaway. Besides that, the app has this feature, AI Auto Edit, which automatically edits a short video for you from the files you select. The phone gets really hot and the battery drains pretty quickly, but in the end it works. Plastic balls from a copy of my skills. And again, for more professional use, obviously not, but I discovered the greatest strength of this camera when I was just playing with my son. And this shows how much the perception of this kind of device changes when our approach changes. Because, you know, if I'm at work and just shooting footage about a motorcycle, etc., I want to do it quickly and efficiently. Quickly when it comes to creating the shot, so I can focus more on riding because that's my priority. The main thing is riding the motorcycle, gathering impressions, and only then recording the footage. But for example, if I'm playing with my child, we're riding motorcycles together, looking for some adventures, and that camera is just, you know, clipped on somewhere the whole time. And I want to watch that footage later because it gives me joy because I'm with my son and we're having fun, or we're with friends and filming all sorts of funny situations. That's when it really starts to be enjoyable, because then you do it with pleasure. You watch that footage again, and with pleasure you look for this shot, that shot, and another shot. I still think that the phone app is more intuitive, but for example, I really don't like working on my phone, doing editing, and so on and so on and so on. But there's something called Insta360 Studio, and it's not the most intuitive program. But again, when I spent a bit of time on it, it turned out that it's possible. What I miss there, you know, is that automatic editing feature, so you could just quickly throw it onto the SD card, put it into the computer, let it spit something out, and that's it, because those AI solutions are only available on the phone, as far as I've noticed. But tracking the frame, once I learned how to do it, is actually pretty simple. You just let the video play, you adjust it, and it keeps going. You hit play, move it, click, and the camera moves smoothly. It guides those shots. And what's most important, just like in the app, you also have the object tracking option in the desktop app, meaning on your computer. So you do the tracking. In our case, you set it to the motorcycle and the program automatically keeps the frame on that object. And it really works really well. Besides that, the sound is totally fine too. And again, you know, it's nothing amazing. When we're riding fast on motorcycles, the noise reduction, it's never going to work in these cameras as well as we'd imagine, so you'd probably need to use some windshields or foam covers here again. But what's important when it comes to conversations and so on, well, that's really nice. It picks up sound well. Plow it, I say right away. And Piotr says not to plow, that there's nothing to plow. Besides, the operation of this camera itself, when it comes to the interface, swiping and so on, you know, you can feel that it's good quality. It works really well. What I don't like, and this is more about me, is that this camera absolutely requires using those covers that protect the lenses. And you know, those covers sometimes get dirty. I've already dropped one once and it already got a smudge. You have to take care of it, clean it, probably with a better cloth than just your shirt. The image is better without those protective covers. But if you drop the camera, then it's basically completely unusable, especially if you damage the lens. You see sticks out like this because it's a 360 camera. So this camera simply requires you to take a bit more care of it, to be more careful with it, which in my case isn't that easy because there's a lot going on during recordings. You know, we're taking photos, recording videos, and above all, we're thinking about what this new motorcycle is like or what the event is about. So overall, I think the device is great for people who want to really enjoy what they've recorded. So, you know, you're riding just like I did through the Alps and so on. And you turn on this camera and later you can watch it over and over and over again. Of course, this will take up a lot of this space because we have to remember that this camera just devours micro SD cards. You know, a single longer recording can be 20 to 30 gigabytes. So you need to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. SD cards aren't all that expensive though. You can just buy yourself an external hard drive. For example, one external drive per trip, and wow, you'll have so much footage that even 20 years from now, you'll still be watching it and enjoying it. And as for the image quality itself, you know, I'm not really a graphic designer, but when I look at these recordings, especially the ones that come out of these programs, meaning from the app or the phone, the raw footage looks really, really good. In my opinion, though, they're a bit lower in quality compared to a traditional sports camera. Not 360. Well, but it's a trade-off. These files here have to be much more compressed. So in my opinion, if you're looking for the best possible image quality, a single Insta camera is still the way to go. Actually, I need to get myself that Insta Ace Pro to finally test it out, because if they work as reliably as this one, then maybe I'll switch to them from DJI. Because right now I have DJI and before that I had GoPro. And that's it. At some point everything breaks down. So I'll see. So here the quality is a little bit lower, yeah, but on the other hand, you don't have to be, you know, so meticulous when it comes to mounting this camera, because you'll probably find some interesting shot anyway. Like I said, maybe this is the worst review or maybe the best one. This camera isn't for me because I'm lazy. However, I think I'll still use it a few more times in my life, but for those people who are more engaged in what they do, if they're collecting footage or simply, you know, if it's not your job but a hobby and a pleasure, then a 360 camera like this, well, I've only heard good things because I met people at the track and they said, I have one, it's totally awesome. So that's it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this type of camera, whether you've tested them or not, and which solution works best for you. Take care. Bye.